Do you enjoy farming? Hoeing? No, not that kind. Do you enjoy being walking pesticide? Optimizing as much as possible? Do you enjoy intricate mechanics? Reaping what you sow? And finally repaying that goddamn squirrel. Oh boy, are you in for a treat. Welcome to Animal Crossing. Sorry, I'm getting a call. Sorry. Yep. It's not Animal Crossing. Damn it, Greg, this is why you read the damn brief. Right, cut the record. Welcome to Path of Exile Harvest, the league that'll grow on you. Before we get started, this is your sort of one-stop shop. This is going to be all of the timestamps for everything regarding the Harvest Ultimate Beginner's Guide. You'll be able to hopefully see the videos sectioned out. That's one of the new YouTube mechanics, as well as these links will also be in the description and more than likely in the comments section below. Hope you guys enjoy the guide. And with that, let's get into this. Harvest is a deep and intricate league with many mechanics to master and setups to understand. This is Kevin. He's a Ray-classed Weta farmer who has graciously decided to take us along his trip through his farm. He's going to explain everything to us and be our guide along this interesting journey. Say hi, Kevin. Alright. On that note, how about you start explaining the simplicities to us? We have a couple of tools at our disposal that we utilize to harvest plants. These seeds are acquired throughout in the current stage of the game, just going out into the world and finding a seed cache. Later on, into certain times from now, we don't know how it will be entirely implemented into the main game. Finding a seed cache will give you anywhere between 2 to 5 seeds, depending on your luck. Those seeds can then be taken into the garden and planted down. Provided they are put beside a collector, you'll be able to harvest them eventually after a certain amount of growth cycles. A growth cycle is what happens when you open a seed cache. So you plant your seed, you do your next zone or map, you open a cache, and that counts as one growth cycle. How this will work when Harvest is not our main league, we are yet to see. To add on to these this simple mechanic, you can get higher tier seeds. You can go all the way from tier 1 to tier 4 seeds. Kevin has not harvested tier 4 seeds just yet, but he has harvested some extensive tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 seeds, and he's going to be explaining how to do all of those. Tier 1 seeds are quite simple. You plant them, you wait. Eventually they grow, and they proceed to attack you. And after you killed a lot of them, you have the ability to craft on your items. It's something that other people in Ray class seem to do, but Kevin, he doesn't need crafting. He has his iron hat and the dream. He's a simple Weta farmer. Tier 2 seeds, however, will drop from Tier 1 seeds. To Kevin's knowledge, you cannot acquire Tier 2 seeds from caches, but then again, things are always subject to change. Tier 2 seeds require life force to grow. Tier 1 seeds can be used to either craft or be condensed into life force, a currency used to craft and grow tier 2 and 3 and 4 seeds. You will eventually wind up with a situation, a farm, I suppose, that will allow you to repeatedly harvest life force from rather underwhelming seeds to fuel your entrepreneurial dreams of tier 2 and tier 3 seeds. To put it quite simply, a tier 2 seed needs one type of a different color. The seeds are all color-coded. We have blue, we have purple, and we have yellow. The yellow seeds will generally, at tier 2, need blue essence or purple essence, one of the two, and that goes across the board. So blue will need purple and yellow, and purple will need yellow and blue. Simple enough, right? So you can see when you hover over a seed what it will require. And as a result, you want to get that life force to said seed and utilize a disperser. Dispersers are one of many things that you have access to in Harvest League. To put it quite simply, you have collectors, which are the things you use to harvest said seeds. They can store a small amount of life force themselves. Pylons, which you use to connect things together. Dispersers, which disperse said life force. And storage tanks, which will store your condensed life force. There's another big crafting station that I have yet to have access to that, from my knowledge, allows you to store crafts in it. But crafting is something Kevin doesn't really care about. It's not his forte. You can pick up all of these items after placing them down by control left clicking them. This works for seeds as well, provided you put a seed in the wrong spot, or when you are first starting learning, you wind up putting yellow seeds in a blue harvester. Kevin may or may not have done that. That is going to conclude our introduction to Harvest League. We will now move onwards to simple setting up. How to set up your farm for simplicity and efficiency. Early starts, as well as a few things to worry about and things that may mess with you later on. Now, to get us started, Kevin is going to teach us how to make a very basic harvest setup, one that most of you will start with, and then we will add on from there. Isn't that right, Kevin? Alright, so if you wouldn't mind dropping down a collector for us, we can start our process. Most of you will start with a collector of a varying color. We are going to put down a yellow collector. This is what's called vivid energy. This collector will store energy from any seeds that it harvests. To harvest seeds, you first have to plant them. Simple enough concept, really. You right-click the seed out of your inventory and you place it down. And now in however many growth cycles the seed says it requires, in this case it's 3, it will be ready to harvest. Alternatively, you can also click the Auto Plant Vivid Seeds Nearby button to plant everything that is in your inventory around a collector. However, I believe I didn't send the correct script to Kevin, because this setup won't work. I told him to read the damn script, but he doesn't seem to actually want to do that. The reason being is that a yellow collector cannot harvest a blue seed. Kevin is a rather stupid exile. So, to rectify that situation, we have to make a blue harvester. So, if we control-click on the yellow harvester, we will pick it up. And that will go straight back to our inventory. If we make a blue collector or find one through the main harvest quest, we can instead put that down there. This will now eventually make our seed grow into something that we can harvest. Of course, as I said, you can click Plant Primal Seeds Nearby, and that will expedite the process quite a bit. Now, this isn't all there is, but this is the simpler sort of situation. I'm going to pick up a few of these to give us a clearer view of what we are going to be doing in just a moment. Because once you harvest these, you'll be able to either craft on your items, which is something Kevin doesn't really understand, or you'll be able to harvest all of their life force and store it. And it will eventually be stored in the collector. You see at the top there it says Stored Primal Life Force 0 of 50. Now, this can only hold so much. So how do we go about holding more of this? Because we need this life force to water higher tier seeds to allow us to make more difficult monsters and get better crafts. Well, we utilize a plethora of things. To put it quite simply, pylons and storage tanks. Now, pylons are a connector piece that will allow you to run your empire. All you have to do is put the pylon down. It only goes up to 5 spaces away from the collector. So for example, if I were to put this little pylon all the way out here, I cannot connect it to the collector. However, if I were to put it a bit closer, we can put that down, press the add conduit, just left click on it, and we can connect conduit like so. And this will last forever, there's no maintenance or anything like that, but one thing that I will warn you about is that the color scheme is not exactly to task, because it blends in quite well with the ground, something I found not that great. For colorblind exiles, I do wish you luck. So, what else can we do with a pylon? Well, we can connect it to multiple things. We can connect it to, in our case, were we to have full storage here, we can connect this to a storage tank. We grab one of these, and we pop it down here, and we go add conduit, and bang. Now, whenever we harvest from the collector, and we choose to store the life force, that will be sent along the wire into the storage tank over here. This storage tank will be pulled from via a dispenser, which is another thing we will use, a disperser, sorry. I'm reading the wrong script myself, it would seem. This will disperse life force to the surrounding crops. You can see that in effect over here. This disperser is dispersing yellow influence to all of these fellas right here, allowing them to grow and spread their wonderful plantiness, I suppose. So, to connect that to a conduit, it is quite simple. Click add conduit, click the disperser. Simple enough. Now, one thing to note is that, as I said with Kevin being the stupid exile, this is all limited to its exact color. So, this will not connect to anything that is yellow. This this pylon, is now a blue pylon. So, anything else that it connects to will also become blue. You see that the storage tank is blue, and the disperser is also blue. So were I to path this to this yellow one, for example, through another pylon here, and conduit here, you can no longer conduit to yellow or to purple. It is not going to fly. So that is just one thing to note when you are setting up your very basic harvest situation. So, this is relatively all you need to get started. This will work just fine for you. You can store all of your life force in here, and you can use this to start crafting. You're going to want to make a couple of setups like this. I will show you what one of mine is currently, for example. I have basically the same thing, except a little bit more done up. We have a collector over here with our seeds planted. We have it connected to a pylon, which connects to 2 different storage tanks, which connects to another pylon, which connects to another one, to another one, to another one, which then connects to other storage tanks. Simple enough. You can use the pylons to path towards wherever you want to go. So in this case, I am making a line of storage tanks along the wall right here. This is the very simple rendition, and what you're going to want to start with when it comes to harvest and setting things up. You're going to want to do this for all of the colors, so down there in that corner I have my blue stuff. In the top left I have all of my purple stuff, which I won't show you right now. I have the basically same setup. I have a collector, pylon into a storage tank, and then a pylon into 2 other storage tanks, and it connects to another collector. And up top I have the yellow stuff done as well, which is quite simply the exact same. We have collector with seeds, which conduits to a pylon, which goes to a storage tank, which goes to a storage tank, which then connects to a pylon, to a disperser, to a pylon, to a storage tank. And there was another conduit here, not conduit, sorry, another collector here that did the exact same thing. Now, I will explain the intricate things in just a moment, but to put it simply, you will also want to drag all of the influence, all of the life force, towards the center or towards wherever you're going to want to try to create higher tier seeds. But that is going to be for the advanced section. But Kevin, I hear you ask, how do you get tier 2 and tier 3 seeds? Well, it's quite simple. You harvest your tier 1s, and eventually you will drop tier 2s. Now, what do you do with tier 2 seeds? Well, that is a little bit more intricate to explain. What do you think, Kevin? How did you do it? How did you set up this wonderful farm that you have currently? What's that, sorry? You threw shit at a wall and saw what sticked. Well, I don't think that's of much help for our viewers here. I think I'll take a look at it myself, and I'll see if I can discern what you've done here. Maybe draw it into a diagram or something so I can explain it quite simply. Alright, Kevin, I'll get back to you, and I will try to rationalize this to our friends back at home. Alright, so I have spent some time analyzing Kevin's farm, all the intricacies of it. For a Exile who's not really all there, he has put together a rather decent setup. It was rather complex at first, but once I realized how it works, it all came together quite nicely. Before I show you the diagram that I've set up, I'd like to throw some numbers at you. 12, 14, 32, 7. Alright, now the diagram. Alright, so those of you looking at this might think this is overly complex and convoluted, and that's because it is. For Kevin's low intelligence, he has the inner working mind of Albert Einstein, it would appear. Even though I'm sure he doesn't know who that is. Now, this looks really convoluted, but in reality it is quite simple. I will be explaining this right now, I suppose. Simply enough, we want to carry all of our essences, or all of our life forces, to the center. I have taken this sort of diagram, which I found through various means, and imported it into my game. So, the setup that is up here in this corner, I have instead imported into the center. Now, it looks really insane, but it's honestly not. All that you need to do is take your very simple setups, which I explained in the introduction portion, and carry them to the center. So I did it with my blue ones here very shortly, brought it to the center. Did the exact same with my yellow stuff that I showed you up at the top. I brought that all the way to the center. You can put it wherever you want, just make sure you have enough space. And I did the same thing with my purple as well, and I brought that all the way to the center. Now, this looks like a jumbled mess of wires, and that's because it kind of is. But to put it quite simply, I will explain this just in-game, and then we will go into the diagram, and I will break it down a little bit more. Every single collector has every color of life force covering all of it, basically. So, for example, if we go all the way to the left here, you'll see my purple collector here has yellow, yellow, blue, 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 yellow. Now, the reason that works, this is for creating tier 2 and tier 3 and potentially tier 4. I have not made it to tier 4 seeds. That the way that this works is that the tier 2 seeds will only require the type of life force that it isn't. So, for example, to put that simpler, purple seeds, purple tier 2 seeds, do not require purple life force. Alright? Simple enough. So for purple seeds, you only need yellow and blue influence. Right? Simple enough. So yellow seeds don't need yellow influence. Not influence, life force. I'm so used to doing Atlas stuff, sorry. The yellow seeds will only need purple and blue. So if we make my way down there, we will see that it has blue, and then it has purple and purple down here as well. Now, of course, it is a bit of a jumbled mess of colors, but it is quite simple in the outset. Now, you'll see that the dispersers are also inside the realm of the collector, because these seeds need something adjacent, which is in an 8x8 sort of style, basically. So a cross like this counts as adjacent. Straight up counts as adjacent, across, 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 and across. Right? So is that 8x8 or 9x9? 9x9. Kevin is a stupid exile. I think it's wearing off on me. That sort of square will be where you want to place other seeds to grow tier 2 and tier 3 seeds. Each one has their own requirement. So this one required, I believe, 4 adjacent seeds. So you can actually meet all these requirements with a setup like this, with the dispersers inside of this, inside of the collector area, inside on the corners. This allows you to get full coverage of every single seed with all of the stuff that you'd need. So that is the hopefully simple explanation of the in-game version. For those of you who want a diagram laid out, this is exactly that. I will hopefully leave it in the description as well for those of you who want to just take this and make a carbon copy of it. So to explain the diagram quite simply, we have, the primals, the blue ones, like I said, in the bottom right hand corner. The Vivid, which I have in the top right, he has it in the bottom left, and then the Wild I have in the same spot. So he also has piped it all the way towards where he's going to be overlapping to make higher tier seeds, and he has storage units in blocks with pylons connecting all the way straight through. So to explain I'm trying to scroll in here, to explain this setup that much more simply, it is really not that difficult. So you are going to want a pylon on all 4, a disperser on all 4 corners, and simply enough you want to line them up with a color and then put the alternate color in the center. So left hand side we have blue and blue dispersers with a yellow in the center. Right, this is the center left of the collector here. This is the collector marker. Then to the right of it, we have yellow, yellow with a blue in the center. Right, the center right, because this is purple, so it does not need purple life force at all. It only needs yellow, which is covering the outside, and blue, which is also covering the outside. This and this will cover all of the inner workings with the alternate color if need be. Now the same works for yellow. You want purple and purple with a blue in between. This will double down if you put them close enough together. This is one space between collectors, so I'll show you that in game right now. If you see the collector, we have one space in between where the collectors are, which is where the row is right here. So that is this little spot right here. Now this one will double over as both sides, dispersing both this side with blue and this side with blue. Now we want purple here, and then on the other side of the yellow we want blue and blue with a purple disperser in the center, which will double over for the other side, covering all of these, and then we have a yellow and yellow, and then a purple and purple. Now, you will want to pile on all of these along the way, which is why my outside area looks so messy. Because you'll see it's a intertwined sort of connection of cables, getting all of my colors to different spots. See, there's a cross section there. It's a little bit messy, but it gets there in the end. If you want to optimize and, you know, make your garden not look like the inside of my PC, then feel free to optimize and clean up the layout as much as you want. The person right here has made it nice and quite simple with the pylons, all the way across, and then 2 pylons in the center to connect to each other. Now, to lay out your seeds, you're going to want to lay out your tier 2s on the outside, generally, and then your tier 3s on a ring in the inside, with your 4s on the right-hand corner that will connect to this dispenser. Sorry, words are hard. Then on the other side, we have the tier 4 here, and the tier 4 here, and then we have tier 2s along the bottom here, tier 2s along the top here, and then tier 4s yet again on the outside, with the disperser here that covers both sides. Going into the next side for tier 4 here, tier 2, tier 2, tier 2, with a tier 3 inner ring. With the yellows being tier 4s and tier 4s in here. You can do this in whatever setup you want, but this is the probably most optimal. If there is a more optimal setup that comes along in due time, I will update the guide and update the inner workings of it and give you a Harvest more advanced guide. But of course, this is the intricate section, and this is probably going to be the section that puts people off the most. But once it clicks for you, it's really not that hard to understand. You just want to make sure you have this set up with all 4 of your corners covered, with the middle covered as well, because that means you get complete coverage of all of your plants. So all you have to do is make sure you have enough life force and check the auto disperse option on the dispersers, and it will automatically, every cycle, every time you pick up a seed cache, spew out your life force onto said seeds, allowing you to grow them that little bit faster. It's really not that difficult. I haven't really made it to the ultimate end of it yet. I haven't crafted tier 4 seeds just yet. So I will update you on how that goes at some point. There will probably be other videos on here, or on my channel, dictating how those fights went, and if you need to do any sort of unique harvest stuff. But yeah, that is going to bring us to the end of the advanced section. There are a few worries for us to take care of, so I'm going to lead you into that section very gracefully. Alrighty, we are into our last section of this video. I'm going to probably cut all of the memes and all that sort of stuff, because I'm just going to give you a bit of extra critique on the league, as well as a few things that are a minor issue. I'll be explaining those in this section. And to start us off, I want to give a bit of a critique to the seeds, the way it's done. We learned in Metamorph that a lot of people don't like the having to manually pick up things 24/7, and after week 2 or month 1 or something like that, they made it so that organs were automatically picked up. I really feel like that should be a thing that happens here, that the seeds should just automatically go to the cache. So if I were to have one recommendation for the league, it would be that they made it so when you click the seed cache, the seeds automatically went to the stockpile. That, I feel, is slightly annoying because your inventory will fill up very, very quickly, making you have to go to the stockpile every map, and that does get annoying. Of course, I'm trying to make this guide as long-term as possible. I was told on other guides that I didn't have, the basics covered and that sort of stuff. So, let me know if long-term they make it so that you can automatically pick up seeds. But yeah, that is one piece of critique. One other thing is that I really wish there was a way to show all of the grids in this setup. Once you set this up, it is quite simple, but when I was first learning and doing exactly that, I wish I could have been able to toggle the grids. The only way to see those is to pick something up, and then you can see all of the grids and the 4x4s and the 6x6 squares and whatnot. That is the only way to figure out if things actually work. Even then, this setup obviously is a lot harder to dictate what's actually going on. But yeah. One of the other things is that there is no colorblind option in Path of Exile. I talked about this a little bit earlier in the video, that I know of anyways. One of the guys in my stream said he was colorblind and purple and blue didn't go too well for him. And I felt really bad for him because this league is blue on blue on blue on purple on blue. So it's going to be an interesting one, and that is of course another piece of critique. Now, into an actual problem that I've run into, and one little warning for you. If you enter a conduit, for example, you click add conduit on a pylon, no matter what you do, you will not get out of this menu. Right? I want to call it like menu, but this like clicking infrastructure basically. If you press escape, it doesn't close it. If you go out to your hideout, yeah, it doesn't close it. If you go back to a map or anything like that, it doesn't close it. So I had a situation on stream where I was trying to, you know, do things and like craft and whatnot, and it's not good. So I'll show you here. I'll go back to my hideout and then go back, and I can't interact with anything else. So I'll pop back here. And I still... Oh, that actually got dealt with. Huh, that must have been what the patch was for, that I spent 30 minutes downloading. Nice. Well, that's actually cool, because I had that issue crop up for me on day one. So it's a very good thing that that's been patched. Because if you're wondering why you can't interact with anything, it's because you're clicked on a pylon somewhere. I'm glad that that issue is fixed, but if you run away from something, or you wonder why you can't interact or anything like that, double check all your pylons that you're not clicked on something, or in this case, I suppose, just go back to your hideout, and that will fix that problem. Because I did have that day one, and it confused me, and I thought my crafting had bricked. Now, on the topic of bricking, don't disconnect. Now, the reason I say that is because the hideout, or sorry, the grove, is not persistent. We've gone through the motions of losing progress when we disconnect, and as a result I have learned to keep our map portals open through disconnects. If you didn't know, if you DC, your map portals in your hideout will stay open for about 15 minutes after the disconnect for you to come back in, go back into your maps, that sort of stuff. Your harvest crafts do not persist through a disconnect. So, for example, what happened to me was I harvested all of my stuff at once, and then the gods of GGG disconnected me. And all of those crafts went to the ether. They all just disappeared, I couldn't interact with anything, all the crafts, all that life force, all those seeds just... Thanos snapped out of existence. So, one word of advice is craft piece by piece. Don't craft it all at once, don't harvest them all at once, harvest one, do your crafts, condense your life force, then go to the next one. It's the sort of thing with the Ascendancy panel when you're doing your trials. Get the panel first in case you disconnect and have to do it all again. That pissed me right off and tilted me for the next like 3 hours because I had spent so many good seeds and I was actually working on something at the time. So don't do that. Piece by piece, whatever the analogy is for slower wins the race. Yeah, in this scenario it actually does, especially if you have very bad internet or the servers are crashy. So if you're in a later league and your league's starting or something like that and harvest is core, do be wary of that. And one other thing that I want to talk about is that growth cycles are awkward. We'll put it that way. those of you who were around in Delve League or previous leagues where we had Click the Thing leagues, there was something called quarry farming. Those of you doing Betrayal Bridge stuff as well, or Harbor Bridge, I believe it was, where you would go into an act area, and you would just reload it, click the thing, reload it, click the thing, reload it, click the thing. So something we did in Delve to get a bunch of sulfite, and something that people did in Betrayal to spawn the masters over and over to set up their board as easily as possible. Now, growth cycles are based around what level the seed is. So, if you're doing blood aqueducts, for example, you will further seeds, but it will not further seeds of level 68 or above. 68, 69, and 70 seeds will not grow from blood aqueducts farming, or from quarry runs, or anything like that, or even Harbor Bridge. They need to be around their certain level. Now, why do I tell you this? I haven't made it deeper into maps just yet. It is the first week of League start for me. But I do believe this could be an issue moving later in. For example, if you have seeds acquired from a tier 10 or tier 16 map, and you put all of those down, and you power farm, tier 5, tier 2, tier 3 maps, I don't think those will further the growth cycles for your tier 16 seeds. It's a very small thing because, I've had moments where it's like, okay, one more growth cycle, I'll just do a quick blood aqueducts, or I'll just do a quick glacier to get my seed cache and call it a day. Obviously, with the new Atlas, things are a little bit different, but that is one sort of thing that I immediately tested to see if it works, because I know people were doing Delve farming and Harbor Bridge farming, and those are not possible with this league. So that is all of the big issues that I have found, or concerns I have regarding Harvest League. Genuinely, from my experience with the first week or so, I would personally say it is around a 8 out of 10 league. If they make the seeds auto pickup and go to your seed stash, I would probably put it at a solid 9. Because I personally enjoy these sort of Factorios type of things, and all in all, I've had a very good time with it. Hopefully this guide has been useful for you. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and leave a thank you Kevin for our little Rayclastian Exile here, to let him know if you made it to the end of the video. That's going to be all from me, and as always, take care, gentlemen. Thanks for making it to the end of my video. If you enjoyed it, take a look at the 2 pieces of content you're seeing on screen right now. If you wouldn't mind, you can click that big red button and see more updates from me. And if you want to go even further than that, then you can take a look in the description to find my new Patreon link. You boys gotta keep the lights on somehow.